Good afternoon, everyone. We will now commence the session 2. The theme for the session is Mahasagar for the development cooperation in the global south. May I now invite the panelists of session 2 to kindly join us on the stage. Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia, Distinguished Fellow, Foreign Studies Program, Gateway House. Rear Admiral Jayarathna, former Chief Hydrographer and International Consultant. Dr. Ali Shameem, Senior Lecturer, Department of Social Science of the Faculty of Arts, Maldives National University. Dr. Malshini Senaratne, Lecturer, University of Seychelles and Director, Ecosol Consulting. Dr. Hiacinter, Lecturer, Department of Transport and Nautical Sciences, Salaam Maritime Institute. And Dr. Abhishek Mishra, Associate Fellow, MP-IDSA. The session will be chaired by Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia. Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia is a Distinguished Fellow, Foreign Studies Program at Gateway House. Over a distinguished 37-year career in the Indian Foreign Services, he has served as ambassador to Myanmar and Mexico and as High Commissioner to Kenya, South Africa, and Lesotho. He is also the chair of FICCI's Task Force on Blue Economy and has served as chair of core groups of experts on BIMSTEC. It is a pleasure to have you with us, sir. We are also honored to have such an eminent panel for this important discussion. Detailed CVs of all the participants are available in the conference booklet for reference. May I now request the chair to take over the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be back at IDSA on this important occasion. This is the annual flagship event, and I thank the Director General and the entire team of IDSA. I feel very much at home and comfortable here. I noticed that we have had really intellectually and even otherwise very fulfilling time so far. So I think the attempt of this panel would also be to further deepen your sense of satisfaction. And I noticed particularly in the last session, there was very interesting interaction. The topic for this afternoon session is particularly stimulating. And as you would have seen already, this is not an Indians-dominated panel. We have Maldives, Seychelles, Tanzania, and India. So now this is really the time, and Sri Lanka, of course, so sorry, to for Indians to listen to the voices of the neighborhood, the extended neighborhood. We generally are accused of holding forth on our own, but this is the time when we want to really listen to those who share this neighborhood and then see how we can synthesize the views completely. Now here, the topic that has been chosen by IDSA is extremely relevant, it's significant, and it is thought-provoking. And some of us have been ideating over it for a very long time, been writing and speaking, eliciting reactions, and in a way, it's a bit unfair, of course, to our foreign guests that they have to master a little bit of intricacies of Hindi or Sanskrit language, because we insist on calling it the shift from Sagar to Mahasagar. But then it has been very helpful that the concept note which has been prepared for this conference makes the definitions and interpretations very clear. Very often I know that when people walk into conferences, the last thing they read is the concept note. But that is a mistake I'm sure most of you have not made today, because the moment I saw DG in the morning, I genuinely commented and complimented him on that piece of paper. And of course, he has also spoken earlier in the morning presenting the conference message. So our attempt will be to talk about Sagar and Mahasagar, and also to look at now the development cooperation basket of this relationship. We have heard a lot about trade, investment, connectivity. And in the next session, I think we are going to listen considerably about the cultural side. But this is where we need to focus on something that has been given to us. So in this context, dear friends, while I'm not a panelist and I'm very happy to play an overarching role, I have a few questions for our panelists. Now, they need not be bound by them, because I'm sure they have come well prepared to present their own thoughts. But at the same time, I think some provocation is required. And this is what I would like to provide as chair before I invite the first panelist to speak. So my first question to the panelists, and indirectly to the audience as well, is what is your conception of Mahasagar, or the ocean, or this shift from sea to ocean? And particularly, can we define the geographical or political area? We have some ideas of our own, but as I said, we want to hear the neighbors' voices. Then the second question is, what is your concept of development cooperation? We all know about trade, investment, etc., but when it comes to development cooperation, sometimes there are variations which I think will be useful to hear about. Third, and very provocatively, what is your ideas about India's development cooperation policy? We have our own ideas, we have our own challenges, we keep looking at them and trying all the time to expand and better them. But if you have, from Sri Lanka, Maldives, Tanzania, Seychelles, any specific mindset, it doesn't have to be necessarily your idea. If it is your think tanks or your government's ideas, even that would do. But if you have some ideas, it'll be useful to know. And then fourthly, in this broader context, at this time, when we all know the world is passing through very turbulent times, on this particular topic, if you have any specific idea of opportunities and challenges, a very cliched phrase, but nevertheless it carries certain implications that also can be. Final question is, are there possibilities for cooperation between your country, India, and a third country? I think when it comes to the potential for trilateral cooperation, which is once again a very well talked about topic in the think tank community, but nevertheless today focused on the shift or elevation of the concept from Sagar to Mahasagar, and in the specific context of development cooperation, are there some possibilities of trilateral cooperation? Even that could be discussed. So, dear friends, with these few words, it's my pleasure to invite, first of all, Rear Admiral Y.N. Jayarathna to take the floor and share his perspectives with us.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much, DG, for the invitation and the opportunity to speak here. My last time when I spoke in the same forum was in this arena was in 2013 in a Maritime Conference. So I'm very much glad to be here again and speak on Sagar to Mahasagar. My analytical paper will be the basis for these 4 slides, which I'll be explaining to you in 10 minutes of time. So what I look at the Sagar to Mahasagar, it will be a concept that is in need of a perpetual changes. The reason I will explain as I go around. I was the former chief hydrographer and I retired as the chief of staff of the Navy, that is number 2 in the Sri Lanka Navy. Then I start working in the region. As I engage the region, Indian Ocean region, I started to absorb and observe many things, how the other countries, the islands, the continental countries, they will look at the region and at each other. So this will be the basis for my analytical paper, and it doesn't represent the view of the government. I am presenting as a maritime analyst, and you have to bear with me as a hydrographer. My life will be incomplete without projections of nautical charts. So this is a nautical charts. This used to be my job some 3 years back. So in the nautical chart, you have the complete maritime picture taken into paper. Now, time to time, we get these concepts introduced, and the concepts are developed by countries that are having a strategic vision of understanding where do you want to go, what you want to achieve. So we go for these things, and in the contemporary world, this is the report that changed the way that we all looked at our maritime space. The 2005 Booth and Hamilton report on energy future of Asia, which coined the word the string of pearls. Now this concept, this report changed, subsequently it gave the avenue to pivot to Asia and then to Indo-Pacific concept. Then came the 2013, the Chinese one belt, one road. So 2005 report made countries to look at and study the report of other country and come up, why not we do something? So in 2013, when One Belt, One Road was introduced in Kazakhstan by the premier, then in 2015, we had the Indian one, the SAGAR. And this was further developed, and in 2025, the MAHASAGAR concept was there. Now these concepts from 2005, the American concept, 2013, the Chinese, 2015 to 2025, the Indian concepts. These are all designed to meet the strategic expectation of that country. So why? The reason is this: the kind of opportunities we are having. Now look at this slide. This is from the Sri Lanka's point of view as an island over here with world largest population of 1.4 billion and world 4th largest economy in the neighborhood. The kind of opportunities available are enormous. And the fact that we have the world 5th largest population, Pakistan, and the world 8th largest population, Bangladesh, and the world 4th largest population, Indonesia. And you might be surprised to see that all the Indonesian major ports are facing their archipelagic waters, not to the Indian Ocean. Now, why is that? The country with so much of population, but none of their major ports are facing the Indian Ocean. So this indicates the geography dictates certain strategic moves. So this kind of a consumer market over here make the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal both very competing, because this consumer market is made by maritime connectivity. That is where the ports and harbors comes into play, and that is where Sri Lanka benefit. Colombo Harbor is in the top 25. It is the only South Asian port within that range. And the 2 deep water harbors, Colombo South and Hambantota, can cater for the deepest draft vessels in the trade. In my analytical paper, I dwell much on how the development took place from 1977, the change of government, how the Colombo was transformed into container port, and how the Sri Lankan shipping and port officials were looking for a harbor in the south, whereas there's no opportunities. Then in 2004, how with tsunami, the land we were looking for all of a sudden was presented to us. So Hambantota is a dug-in harbor. It is not a harbor made up on this out at sea. It's a dug-in harbor. And that decision alone in 2005 to go for these two harbors has changed the entire strategic posture of South Asia. Not forgetting the fact that East African region, there are many constructions taking place on this part. There are many opportunities are presented on this part. And not forgetting the small island states on this Indian Ocean, although the population is very small, the purchasing power it's very high. And this purchasing power make them to look for the best in the consumer market. And this consumer market has to come by the sea. So what you want to do with your oceans and the maritime connectivity, I would say that it's only limited by your imagination. So having this kind of a consumer markets, the economies around you is an opportunity itself. How you look at your own strategic background. Is that everything is rosy? No, because things are getting complicated. I could have filled all this slide with all these things, links and things, right? For example, how the Trump is making blackguarding the UK about the Chagos Archipelago, the Diogo Garcia, and how the India Today carried out this assessment about the neighborhood and about the Somaliland issue, the breakaway province of Somaliland, what's going to present and how it's going to complicate things in the Horn of Africa. And not forgetting the fact that it will be looking at the Yemen and the UAE and the Saudis are all competing for their part in this part of the region. So it's going to get complicated. So out of this region, the Sagar and Mahasagar is to the other regions, but Sagar has sustained. But to sustain these kind of a concepts, I think it's not going to be very easy. So let me not be the devil's advocate here, but at the same time, I will say that no economic corridor, no economic prosperity, no economic connectivity can thrive if the maritime space is become hostile and unsecured and it is volatile. So we are looking at Bay of Bengal. So I would suggest that the Bay of Bengal has to be kept very exclusive for 4 countries, that is Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. How? It should not be a maritime space similar to Arabian Sea where all the major players in the world is operating. It is a contested ground in Arabian Sea. So if that the same thing happened to Bay of Bengal, we never know what that Pandora's box is having for us. So it's better that these 4 nations start working together and working collaboratively, make things, keep it exclusive. Arabian Sea is a different kettle of fish to handle. So India's economic corridors across Gulf being the global hub these days, and to connect to the Europe, it cannot sustain if the Arabian Sea is volatile. So I would suggest that India look at their political relationship with Pakistan in a different lens. Now, these things will not be settled. Don't expect it to be settled, but you can manage it at a certain threshold level that it will keep thriving the economies of both nations. And it will keep thriving the economies of all the nations. And this is another hotspot. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, Horn of Africa, the Gulf of Yemen. It is because of the Somaliland breakaway and the eye for the Berbera harbor. Now, these things are going to complicate, and these are going to add more fuel into the fire. Coming down, we have another development over here in the Chagos, that is with the Diogo Garcia now being in the discussion. So how it affect the Maldivian action to withdraw their earlier comments and the President Trump's action to enforce that the UK do something about it. These are going to heat up the entire Indian Ocean. Then let's not forget about the Mozambique Channel with the resources and the Madagascar internal politics. So these things are going to add further burden to these kind of concepts. So if the Indian Sagar and Mahasagar to thrive on this kind of a volatile situation, it needs a lot of diplomacy, it will need a lot of understanding and a lot of homework from the other parties more than the India, because as you can see in the Indian side, the homework is done. So the partner nations or the Indian Ocean region has to work out much on this line, get their house in order, that includes Sri Lanka, or otherwise we will see that we will be driving the Indian Ocean to a much more conflictive arena. It is not because of us, it is because of the extra regional players having partnership with us. Now with this, ladies and gentlemen, in my paper, I was trying to address these objectives of the concept paper, India's strategic framework. What should be the strategic framework? And geopolitical and security challenges, enormous regional institution, how to make use of these things, whether we need new institutions? I don't think so. There's enough of institution. Let's have some life into this institution. Let's encourage this institution to make decisions. Cross-regional linkages and opportunities for collaborations. Now, these are the issues that I have addressed in my analytical paper, and it will be published soon. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude. So I would like to modify the Canadian Prime Minister's statement in Davos, Switzerland. He said that if we are not on the table, we are in the menu. So similarly, if the Indian Ocean region, the regional partners not in the table, they are in the menu. So we have to work it out. Everybody has to work it out to ensure the Indian Ocean keep its own identity. If the Indian Ocean loses that identity, with that identity, we are going to lose the peacefulness and the serenity we already had for many more decades. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Admiral Jayarathna, for a very lucid, crisp presentation. Actually, you have very constructively answered some of the questions which I raised. I think you're pointing out that Sagar and Mahasagar are concepts, are among the concepts that change the perceptions, is, to be quite frank, music to our ears. But at the same time, you are also very candid and frank in pointing out the difficulties between India and Pakistan. And you advise that that relationship has to be managed wisely. But I think your most important point, which we just heard, was that extra regional powers in this region, in this ocean, in the Indian Ocean particularly, we have to watch them and see how we can connect with them. And I think most importantly, you also said that we don't need new institutions, but we want the existing institutions to take decisions and to ensure that this region remains one of peace and stability. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. And it's a wonderful start of our dialogue. Now I'm very happy to invite Dr. Shameem to take the floor and share his perspectives.
Thank you, Chair. Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon. I hope to answer the first question, what is the concept of Mahasagar for Maldives? And the last one that the Chair has raised as his thoughts, are there possibility for cooperation with Maldives and India under the vision of Mahasagar? This is the first time I'm formally taking the floor, and therefore allow me to express my heartfelt thanks to our generous host for inviting me and represent Maldives National University at this important conference, and also for extending very hospitable, very generous hospitality. Before I go into my presentation, let me also make two observations. This is a very historic year for the relation between our host India and Maldives, because this year marks the 60th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations between India and the Maldives. And we have drawn up a very impressive plan to observe this important occasion. India was the fifth country that recognized Maldives when we became independent in 1965. No ocean is complete without the smallest plankton or living microorganism coexisting with the largest mammal, whales, to make ocean a complete ecosystem. Perhaps. Similarly, no jungle is complete and comprehensive without the smallest living animal found in the jungle and the largest anaconda found in the jungle. Similarly, we believe that international community will not be complete without microstates and small states like the Maldives coexisting with superpowers and larger or emerging powers like India. So there must be a reason and rationale why countries like Maldives or Seychelles rather have become independent states and joined international community to contribute towards peace and development. And therefore, now, the Maldives, of course, is an archipelagic nation, strategically positioned in the heart of the Indian Ocean. And to gain sustainability from deeper alignment with India's evolving maritime vision, MAHASAGAR, mutual and holistic advancement for security and growth across region. In this security, I will be presenting our views on security dimension plus trade dimension, how Maldives and India can collaborate for mutual benefits and for perhaps more extended regional as contributors to both prosperity of maybe South Asian region. In the security domain, Mahasagar offers the Maldives opportunities to deepen long-standing maritime domain awareness, cooperation with India, including information sharing, joint patrols, capacity building for the Maldives National Defense Force and Coast Guard, and coordinated response to piracy, illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, drug and arms trafficking, human smuggling, and climate-induced maritime threats. On the trade and economic front, Mahasagar can be explored to accelerate the blue economy of the Maldives, marine, biotechnology, sustainable fisheries, renewable ocean energy, and sustainable growth, opening diversified, resilient economic engagement. The Maldives can leverage Indian grant assistance, concessional lines of credit, technology transfer, and infrastructure support to reduce over-dependence on a narrow tourism base. My presentation at this conference aims to examine the prospective benefits the Maldives can draw in two core domains, that is enhanced maritime cooperation and strengthened trade and economic relations through the MAHASAGAR initiative of India. The island state of the Maldives, to give a background, is a complete ocean state comprised of 1,200 islands situated at the tip of Indian subcontinent in the heart of the Indian Ocean. It is a fragile and vulnerable state for being climatically endangered as the lowest lying nation above sea level and with the open borders, which has no land borders but all coastal borders. The country comprises 1% land and 99% water. Therefore, the country is subject to ocean security threats in many folds. Understanding maritime security risks and challenges for the Maldives and formulating strategies to overcome these risks is crucial. Looking at the historical overview of security of Maldives, historically, the Maldives was a popular transit point for ocean-going vessels seeking refuge during stormy weathers and restocking water and food items. By nature, the Maldives was protected from pirates and criminals in the ancient days due to unknown navigational directions and high liability for shipwrecks. There were many unmapped islands, sandbanks, and shallow reefs, which provided protection for the inhabited islands from unwanted guests. Fortunately, the Maldives is located at a major sea transportation routes as a hub for cargo shipment that transport goods and fuel from the Middle East to India and the Southeast Asian region. Today, 30% of cargo transshipments that use the Indian Ocean passes through the Maldivian territorial waters under the in-ocean passage provided by the Law of the Sea Convention. The Maldives is privileged as a complete ocean state, having received 200 exclusive economic zones under the provision of Law of the Sea Convention. This makes the country twice the size of Sri Lanka territory and equivalent to Portugal in area. However, being an island developing state with a per capita income of US 18,000 and a population of almost 500,000, the Maldives is incapable of defending its territorial waters from non-traditional maritime threats. Historically, the Maldives had a security alliance with Great Britain, which had maintained colonies in South Asia as the largest empire of the world. In 1887, King Imaduddin II of the Maldives signed a security alliance pact with Queen Victoria, by which Maldives defense and foreign relations were taken care of by the Great Britain. The Maldives became a protectorate, but British authorities allowed self-rule for the Maldives. During the First World War and Second World War, British authorities maintained a military base in the southernmost island of Gain and a surveillance military post on the northern island of Kela. The main three industries of Maldives, fishing, tourism, and shipping, are based on the surrounding seas and are subject to maritime security threats. Every year, 2 or 3 foreign vessels were seized in the Maldivian EEZ, engaged in illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing. In November 1988, Tamil mercenaries of Sri Lanka came to the capital island by 2 boats and attacked the security headquarters in Malé, the capital of the Maldives. The government immediately asked for the help from the Commonwealth, the UN, and the Indian government. the government of Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi sent a rapid deployment Air Force and Navy force, which chased the mercenaries and captured them while fleeing in a hijacked cargo ship seized from the seaport of Mali. In the clashes of fire in the capital, a total of 19 Maldivians, including security guards who defended security headquarters, were killed. Since this attack, the Maldives kept a close security ties with India, which is the military power in the region. The rescue team that came from India was stationed in Maldives for about 1.5 years and withdrew from the country. In recent times, India has helped the Maldives National Defense Force by providing maritime security training and donating facilities to look after the security of the Maldives. India has gifted 2 Dornier aircraft and 1 helicopter to the Maldives for use in surveillance as well as in search and rescue operations. Furthermore, India gifted 1 frigate ship for the Coast Guard operations within the Maldives, which keeps patrolling the territorial waters of the Maldives. I will skip some of my notes in order to confine into time given. Frequent stormy weathers, tidal waves, saline water intrusion in groundwater, destruction of mangroves, erosion of beaches, and damages to reefs are daily occurrences today found in the Maldives. In the past, in devising maritime security strategy, Maldives has followed a bilateral approach by concluding defense pact with United Kingdom and later having defense collaboration with India. Since 1988, armed aggression, security and defense have been a prime area of bilateral cooperation between India and the Maldives. In April 2016, a comprehensive action plan was concluded to strengthen defense partnerships, and India provides the largest training. India provides the largest trainings for the Maldives National Defense Force. These trainings include joint AEZ patrols, joint exercises, anti-narcotic operations, sea rider programs, and other form of exercises. India also offers training in humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, search and rescue, and pollution control. The current president, Dr. Mohamed Moi's government departed from the traditional policy of seeking military assistance from larger powers, but sought help from middle powers like Turkey. His government attached great interest in modernizing and building the capacity of the Maldivian Defense Force by acquiring military hardware. His initial move was to buy 2 drones from Turkey to increase the ability of the ocean surveillance. Last year, Turkey also donated a frigate to the Maldives, which can carry missiles. Now, both Australia and US have announced that they would gift patrol boats to help Maldives' efforts to keep effective monitoring and surveillance of EEZ. Japan has donated a patrol boat to the Maldives Customs as well. And in 2015, US proposed to have a defense cooperation agreement with Maldives, which was known as a SOFA agreement. The Maldives did not sign the agreement. I think I'm running out of time, so quickly go to now MAHASAGAR and the Maldives. Vision MAHASAGAR, unveiled by Prime Minister Modi in March 2025, represents an evolution of India's maritime outreach, building upon earlier SAGAR doctrine articulated in 2015. The acronym MAHASAGAR, Mutual and Holistic Advancement for Security and Growth Across the Region, itself meaning Great Ocean and signals a vision that transcends its predecessor. Where SAGAR emphasized India's role as a net security provider and first responder, MAHASAGAR integrates these security commitments within a broader architecture of economic cooperation, sustainable development, and diplomatic engagement with Global South. MAHASAGAR offers small states in the neighborhood like the Maldives a coherent and multifaceted partnership that addresses core vulnerabilities from debt sustainability, infrastructure deficits to maritime security challenges and climate resilience. The realization of these prospects is contingent upon navigating complex geopolitical environment, managing domestic political sensitivities, and ensuring that the partnership delivers equitable and tangible outcomes for the Maldivian people. The operationalization of MAHASAGAR in the Maldivian context has been exemplary. The October 2024 Joint Vision for a Comprehensive Economic and Maritime Security Partnership, adopted during President Moi's visit to Delhi, has become the guiding framework. This document, implemented through a high-level core group mechanism, has already met twice, translates the loftiest aspirations of MAHASAGAR into actionable cooperation across defense, trade, infrastructure, and development. During the recent visit to the Maldives by His Excellency Prime Minister Modi as the chief guest at the Maldives Independence Day celebration in August 2025, 72 vehicles were handed over to the Maldives National Defense Force. Prime Minister Modi was reported to have said, India will always support the Maldives to strengthen its defense capabilities. The challenges now Maldives faces are to balance its open sky foreign policy goals as a country to be a friend to all and enemy to none. This is crucial given the fact that the Maldives is dependent on foreign markets for its number one industry, tourism. After the Maldives graduated in 2011 from the least developed states category to the developing state category, it also needed development assistance from all like-minded donors and friends. India was the fourth country to recognize the country's independence in 1965. India, being a democracy, having had bitter experience of colonial domination from British Empire, and geographically closest neighbor to the Maldives, we enjoy confidence in cherished bilateral relations. Now, very quickly, I will look at the India-Maldives trade relations, and then I will stop here. Since time immemorial, trade relations continued between South India and the Maldives as the largest market for the Maldives. Modern-day trade and economic relations began when, in 1976, the State Bank of India opened a branch in the Maldives, which was the first commercial bank established in the Maldives. A trade agreement was signed between the two countries in 1981, which facilitated export-import trade. In 2023, India was the Maldives' largest trading partner, and India permitted rational exports like essential vegetables to the Maldives, even when a ban was imposed due to shortages. During the COVID-19 pandemic that struck the Maldives in 2020, India was the largest tourist market for the Maldives as well. The economic architecture of MAHASAGAR in the Maldives rests on a foundation of substantial infrastructure investment designed to catalyze sustainable development. The flagship Great Malay Connectivity Bridge, which will connect 4 islands and represents about $500 million investment aimed at transforming the capital region's logistics and transportation capacity. When completed soon, it will be the largest infrastructure built to date in the Maldives. All Maldivians are eagerly anticipating the day this 6-kilometer bridge will become operational. The roads and drainage systems project in Addu city, virtually inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi and President Moise in July 2025, and 6 high-impact community development projects across other islands demonstrate a shift towards locally identified needs rather than donor-presented interventions. The most significant economic development under MAHASAGAR framework is initiation of negotiation for a bilateral free trade agreement announced during the Prime Minister Modi's visit in July 2025. This represents a qualitative shift in the economic relationship, moving from aid and concessional finance towards a trade-based partnership grounded in reciprocal advantage. With bilateral trade already approaching 500 million annually, India being one of the Maldives' largest trade partner, and a free trade agreement could potentially double trade volumes to over $1 billion. The agreement scope extends beyond merchandise trade to encompass investment in renewable energy, fisheries, and digital infrastructure. The inclusion of provision for cross-border investment in green hydrogen, solar microgrids, and offshore wind projects align with the Maldives' urgent need to reduce dependence on imported fossil fuels. The adoption of India's unified payment interface in the Maldives, formalized through an MOU during Prime Minister Modi's visit, promises to enhance financial inclusion and facilitate transaction for Indian tourists, a critical demographic for the Maldivian economy. The digital economy dimension extends beyond payments to broader cooperation on digital public infrastructure. An MOU on sharing successful digital solutions implemented at population scale signals intent to leverage India's experience with digital identity, payments, and service delivery platforms to support Maldivian digital transformation. Sectorial cooperation fisheries and aquaculture, formalized through another MOU, addresses the second most important sector of the Maldives economy after tourism. Indian technical assistance, market access, and investment in value-added processing could help the Maldives capture greater value from its fisheries resources, diversifying the blue economy and creating livelihoods beyond the tourism sector's seasonal fluctuations. Now, to conclude, the MAHASAGAR framework offers a comprehensive package spanning security, infrastructure, trade, digital cooperation, providing the Maldives with a coherent alternative to dependence on any one single market partner. The prospects for Maldives under Vision Sagar are substantial. The institutional mechanism established under the joint vision, including high-level core group, provide a structure for sustained engagement that can survive political transitions in both countries. The debt restructuring, new line of credit, and FTA negotiations indicate Indian willingness to move beyond donor-recipient dynamics towards genuine economic partnership. Finally, to make MAHASAGAR vision a reality, a win-win situation must be realized where it would demonstrate how small state and larger powers can coexist and mutually benefit with tangible results. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shameem, for that skillful manner in which you wove the story of Maldives and linked it directly to the concept of Mahasagar. I should share with you that I have been to your country many times because I had the privilege to be head of the division handling India's relations with Maldives for a number of years. And in that context, I paid several visits to Maldives and interacted with the leaders of civil service, cabinet, and even the president himself. In the recent years, I think we all know the relationship was marked by ups and downs. This is a very positive phase. It began even when SAGAR doctrine was in operation. And now I think, as you outlined very, very nicely, MAHASAGAR really stands for holistic development. And you have pointed out how in almost all phases and facets of cooperation it is there. Finally, you also threw in how some of the other countries, which are also very friendly with India, such as Japan and Australia, are assisting Maldives. And in a way, frankly, I think there can be potential for cooperation among these friendly countries, including even the UK now, which can further advance the national cause of Maldives. So thank you very much for a holistic presentation. Let me now invite my neighbor, Dr. Malshini Senaratne, to present her perspective.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me. And my paper focuses on how SIDS in the Indian Ocean are often positioned as strategic beneficiaries of development assistance support. However, and I'm very proud to talk about it today, I would like to demonstrate how the Republic of Seychelles can show how island states can also function as incubators for policy or innovation therein, particularly in advancing the blue economy model as a holistic development framework. And for context, I was very pleased that everyone I spoke to today knew where Seychelles was. I did not have to use Mauritius as the proximity, which I often have to do. But perhaps some of these things might surprise you. So we are an archipelago. We have 115 islands to our name. We are scattered across the Western Indian Ocean, and our population is only around 120,000 people, which I have been told is equivalent to a village or a town in India. Correct me if I'm wrong. And that should immediately tell you that we have a lot of human capacity development challenges in the country. We are also heavily reliant on very narrow economic bases of tourism and fisheries, and we are very vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. However, while their land sizes are small, SIDS exclusive economic zones, being the ocean under their control, is on average 28 times the country's landmass. And this is the case for Seychelles as well, strategically located in the Indian Ocean and attracting the interest of established and newer powers, all jostling for influence in the region. And over the years, Seychelles, as well as other SIDS such as the Maldives, Sri Lanka, have slowly and collectively made their agency known in the global arena of international relations. They have begun taking leadership in non-traditional issues and security issues such as climate negotiations, and as a result, we are no longer positioning ourselves as just SIDS. We are marketing ourselves as large ocean states, and in some cases, even ocean republics. And in this respect, Seychelles has stood out as a case study, a sovereign state that is attempting to maintain agency in the face of multiple challenges. And Seychelles has been long acknowledged as being highly adept in managing international relations and diplomacy, managing very delicate relationships with major powers such as India, the UAE, China, and the USA with aplomb, and all under the banner of non-alignment, or as I like to call it, sunny diplomacy, because we are a very friendly and hospitable nation, and we are hosts to all of the major embassies or high commissions in the world. And we are recognized as a pioneer in the blue economy space. We launched the Blue Economy Framework as an attempt to take back our own development and redesign it in our own terms. And Seychelles has conceptualized the model for its own context, stating that the framework revolves mainly around the need to diversify the economy, protect the ocean, create high-value jobs, and all the while ensure the development and existence of the country for the future. This slide also shows you the different sectors that have been defined as part of Seychelles' blue economy. And I would like to point your attention to perhaps the disparity or the contrast, I would say, that a country that also promotes the blue economy has also placed hydrocarbon and oil and gas exploration within its economic development. And that might be a point for discussion later on. And you would also like to see here the institutional changes that the Seychelles has made in order to support its development pathway. The Ministry of Fisheries and Blue Economy, since renamed, spearheads the framework, and the Department of the Blue Economy mandates strategic direction. And the University of Seychelles, where I also have the pleasure of lecturing students in the afternoon, has created the Blue Economy Research Institute back in 2015. Within this framework, Seychelles was provided the opportunity to also explore innovative blended finance. And this is where I think much of the world has taken interest in our blue economy model, because we undertook two very interesting formats for this. We launched a debt for nature swap as well as a blue bond. In 2015, we undertook a $21.6 million debt restructuring with the help of our partners, such as the Paris Club and the Nature Conservancy. And in 2018, we launched the world's first blue bond. This was valued at $15 million, and it has proven itself so commercially popular that it has been taken on by other countries around the world, namely around 7, I believe. And the proceeds from this bond is dispersed in the Seychelles by the independent trust SAGAR. And it is perhaps this replication that shows to me, and hopefully to you, that the elements of the Seychelles model could be very easily scalable, because there is flexibility for the different kind of coastal contexts and policy coherence between our economic and environmental aims. And as India seeks to expand its influence through MAHASAGAR in the channels of trade, security, cooperation, and sustainable development, it is worth noting that the principles of the blue economy could very well help like-minded partners cement what is an already strong relationship and achieve their aims in the region. And this reminds me of Ambassador Chinoy's remarks in the morning, that India's approach is firm yet pragmatic, and this has also been Seychelles' approach within the blue economy framework. And as this slide shows you, Seychelles and India has had a long time relationship. It is a partnership that has evolved over the years. It is embedded now in the spheres of commerce, tourism, medical tourism, education, and environment. And we have a robust Indian diaspora living and working on the islands, estimated to be between 5,000 and 6,000 people. And India has also expressed support for the non-traditional issues that Seychelles faces, such as the impacts of climate change. Subsequently, nowhere has the support India has given to Seychelles been more clearer than in the space of the blue economy. And India, for its own part, has had to recognize the importance of the blue economy towards its own development and has launched its national policy on blue economy back in 2021. And India's assistance to Seychelles has spanned the spheres of infrastructure, education, and maritime security. And as recently as just last week, they announced a $175 million development aid, as development assistance rather, to the Seychelles, which very interestingly includes the establishment of a hydrographic unit that will be set up in Seychelles with India's assistance. And this chair ties into my interpretation of how MAHASAGAR could work and how development cooperation would work as well between the two countries. Because India and island states such as Seychelles are demonstrating that they have a common philosophy. It is centered around mutual progress, shared ocean prosperity, and a wider regional development. And in recognizing the importance of the Indian Ocean as a shared ecological and economic space, both countries have developed converging policies, ones that prioritize maritime security, climate relations, and blue economy development. So India's vision aligns very nicely with Seychelles' blue economy roadmap, in that it creates space for securing healthy and productive oceans, creating sustainable wealth, developing research and development, as well as having management of marine and coastal resources. However, much like MAHASAGAR, we can go beyond. We can look at other areas where the two countries could cooperate. And my paper proposes perhaps new policy-relevant pathways that could be explored together. And given Seychelles' experience around climate bleaching, depleting fisheries, and maritime climate impacts, a data hub which incorporates India's sophisticated technological advances could potentially help the Seychelles and the neighborhood to keep track of ongoing quick and slow onset climatic changes. Blue financing opportunities also exist in this space. Seychelles was only the first country to issue a blue bond, and it has not been the last. Sri Lanka is the latest country in the Indian Ocean region to issue its own blue bond, as I understand it. And India has also proposed a similar blue bond issuance back in 2022. And another potential pathway could be the valuation of coastal ecosystem services. In this light, both countries could continue to look at their initiatives in the environmental conservation space, joint projects perhaps around coral reef restoration, blue sink preservation, as well as sea level adaptation and maritime security. Lastly, the power of blue diplomacy cannot be ignored. Despite its numerous vulnerabilities, Seychelles has capably transformed what is seen as perceived weaknesses into leadership strengths and has led the call to tackle issues relevant to its own development with urgency. And the success of this small country in making its voice heard loudly in the international sphere has been commendable. But Seychelles has not done it alone. It never has. It has always worked in partnership with like-minded countries, and in doing so, it is stating very strongly that you can only go together if you can go further. And the Indian Ocean region is a volatile one. Partnerships in this volatile space should look to go beyond the traditional relationship dynamics that have existed between small island states as well as our larger partners. And in a Mahasagar world, India's strategy is seemingly working for this dynamic neighborhood. The country is presenting cooperation as a mutual and strategically equal opportunity. And this is very much, I would say, appealing to the Seychelles. It is perhaps, Chair, the third choice, or it is India's way, as I would put it. It is India's cooperation agenda, and it should be for the region. I will end here and I will say that India's continued partnerships with large ocean states like Seychelles offer not just strategic depth, but also scalable models of sustainable ocean governance that I feel Mahasagar could amplify and go beyond across the global south. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for the benefit of foreign participants here. I should mention that one of the closest residential colonies to this venue where we are sitting, and one of the most prestigious and posh colonies, is known as Vasant Vihar, is very close from here. The population of Vasant Vihar is 60,000 people, which means 2 Vasant Vihars is equal to Seychelles, a country which has a huge number of islands, 115 islands for 120,000 people. But this is a country with big ideas, and I want to draw attention to my Indian participants here to say that if there is one area where this massive country, India, can learn from Seychelles, it is in the field of blue economy. And I have reason to believe, because I have been associated with that domain over a decade in India, and I'm afraid India, with all the talk about Mahasagar, etc., does not yet have officially a blue economy policy. We do not have a Ministry of Blue Economy. We don't have a elaborate policy on blue finance, which you heard our speaker mention. So I think, thank you very much for responding to my query, and we listened to you very carefully. There are things where a country like India can learn from a country like Seychelles, and I think it's very important that we meet today in the wake of the presidential visit, which was very successful, and you have listed out a number of very concrete points, achievements, and I very much hope that there was a good discussion at the official level during the president's visit on blue economy as well, because this is one solid area where we can learn from Seychelles, and also a country like Mauritius, because you have really secured a great deal of progress in this field. Thank you very much. Now, my neighbor's turn on the left, a very friendly country, Dr. Rwechungura from Tanzania, to come and deliver your viewpoint to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Your Excellency, distinguished members of the panel, fellow scholars and guests. It is a profound honor to present my paper here at IDSA, especially under such distinguished chairship. It is a profound honor to present my paper. And of course, as I said, this paper I'm presenting today, Consolidating Maritime Partnership, arrives at a critical juncture. As we look at the Western Indian Ocean in 2026, we see a landscape defined by a poly crisis, from the resurgence of piracy to the ripple effects of Red Sea disruptions. However, within this volatility, the partnership between India and Tanzania offers a compelling counter-narrative. I urge that we are moving beyond a traditional donor-recipient dynamic, and instead, through the synergy of India's MAHASAGAR doctrine and Tanzania's national blue economy strategy, we are witnessing the birth of a development-led security model, a framework where maritime security is not an end in itself, but the essential scaffolding for South-South economic prosperity. Now, so as you can see from the PowerPoint, the global center of gravity has decisively transitioned from the Euro-Atlantic to the Indo-Pacific. And in this new era, the Western Indian Ocean is no longer a peripheral corridor, but rather it is a strategic fulcrum where global South interests intersect with global trade stability. So we are witnessing a fundamental departure from the traditional donor-recipient model. The new Indian-Tanzania partnership is a strategic collaboration defined by the following: mutual security, that is shared responses to piracy and Red Sea disruptions, as well as shared prosperity, and that is aligning India's technical maturity with Tanzania's geographic potential. Now, with regard to development-led security, the core thesis of this partnership is that security is the scaffolding for development. It moves beyond gray hulls, that is naval presence, to protect the blue economy in the following aspects. One, it is sustainable fisheries, in the sense of protecting liquid assets from IUU fishing. Another aspect is infrastructure, that is digitalizing ports to secure the digital sovereignty of the global South. And the last is the saliency, in the sense of ensuring coastal communities, coastal communities are the primary beneficiaries of maritime stability. So in terms of strategic alignment, the strategic alignment that is existing right now shows that the partnership is not expected to be just a series of random projects, but a deeply calculated move by both nations, that is India and Tanzania, to protect their future. India's evolution, that is from SAGAR to MAHASAGAR, indicates that while SAGAR provided the why, MAHASAGAR provides the how. So SAGAR, which was launched in 2015, it was India's promise to be a net security provider focusing on traditional naval presence. MAHASAGAR, announced in 2025, shifts the focus to the global south emphasis and in terms of mutual and holistic advancement. So the first responder nonsense is India no longer just waits for an invite. It maintains an active presence like the ICAMI exercises to respond instantly to humanitarian crisis or piracy, ensuring that sovereignty is not compromised by extra regional powers. Now, for the case of Tanzania, we have what is known as the Blue Economy Strategy 2034. So for Tanzania, the ocean is the new frontier for economic survivals. For example, the 20% target that Tanzania has had deadline. By late 2026, Tanzania expects nearly $1 out of every 8 in its GDP to come from the sea. Equally, in terms of the smart port, the digitalization of Port of Dar es Salaam, supported by India Tech, is critical. It is not just about moving cargo, it is about cyber security and efficiency to compete with other regional hubs. Now, in this case, although Zanzibar is a part of Tanzania, but here Zanzibar acts as, is seen as the laboratory of niche diplomacy. Zanzibar as an operational hub is a semi-autonomous archipelago. So this allows India to conduct initial diplomacy, testing specialized projects in a smaller, controlled environment before scaling them to mainland. In case of laboratory for climate resilience, I urge that because Zanzibar is uniquely vulnerable to rising sea levels, it serves as the test bed for blue carbon initiatives and solar-powered coastal surveillance. Now, the fourth JDCC, just 3 weeks ago, and Zanzibar hosted that committee. There was a decision to move into AI and electronic warfare, and that proves that Zanzibar is the most advanced part of the partnership born. I'll repeat. The decision the decision which we arrived at like 3 weeks back, the decision there to move into AI and electronic warfare proves that Zanzibar is where the most advanced parts of the partnership are born. So Zanzibar is where theory meets reality, and it is where we test AI-driven detection of illegal fishing and solar-powered radar before deploying them across the 1,400-kilometer Tanzanian coastline. So, yes. Come back, please. Yes, so yes, I will skip some issues, but I would like to say something on the issue of the power vacuum and piracy resurgence. So the surge in Somalia piracy is not a coincidence, but it is an opportunistic response to the Red Sea effect. As global superpowers redirected their naval assets to the Red Sea to counter Earth missiles, the vast waters of the Horn of Africa were left largely unmonitored. So the result is a 110 increase in incidents as pirate groups realized the policemen had left the beat. Now, this is perhaps the most concerning geographical shift. Traditionally, these groups had different ideologies and goals, but they have formed a transactional alliance, as seen in the presentation. And in terms of the grievance cycle of the IUU fishing, illegal fishing and unreported, IUU fishing is the visible engine of this crisis. And when foreign trawlers deplete the local fish stocks, there occurs economic death. Deprived of a legal living, local fishermen become easy recruits for pirate syndicates or Al-Shabaab. And also, this grievance cycle ensures a steady supply of manpower for maritime crime. So, I would like to mention a bit about virus issues, although this was not included in my original paper, but I'm curious and I would like to hear from the audience about the legal framework, which seems to be lacking in terms of every state in the region has got its own legal framework for counter-piracy. And I do remember the Arunda Rainbow case, where India set a very good precedent in those years, where it managed to convict pirates in that particular case. But despite the absence of the specific legal legislation which was in place to prosecute pirates, India, in that case, invoked the penal code and convicted the accused for attempted murder. It was a good lesson that other states would ensure that they never leave pirates unattended, but they would rather look for any other resort so that pirates can not be left unpunished. To conclude my presentation, Mr. Chairman, my research has highlighted that the India-Tanzania maritime axis is no longer a peripheral bilateral matter. It is a central pillar of the westward pivot within the MAHASAGAR framework. And we have moved from a transactional model to a strategic synergy where India's technological maturity in hydrograph and MDA directly enables Tanzania's national blue economy mandate. As we have discussed the challenges of 2024 through 2026, specifically the resurgence of piracy and Red Sea disruptions, have created a security tax on the global south. My paper urges that the solution lies in development-led security by securing Tanzania's EEZ against IUU fishing and digitalizing the port of Dar es Salaam. We are not just defending waters. We are protecting the economic lifelines of an entire region. So finally, the roadmap I have proposed in my paper, emphasizing information fusion, climate resilient smart ports, and AI-driven surveillance, offers a scalable governance model. It provides a way for littoral states to bypass great power rivalries by focusing on functional technical cooperation. As India prepares for the next India-Africa Forum Summit, The India-Tanzania model stands as a blueprint for a free, open, and inclusive Western Indian Ocean. Your Excellency, Mr. Chair, maritime security is ultimately about the resilience, ecosystems, and the sovereignty of nations. While my paper highlights the technology of surveillance, we must not forget the legal fishing. I have always been fascinated by the Alonda Rainbow case, as I said earlier, which exposed the cracks in our maritime laws 25 years back. Today, with India's 2022 Maritime and Pirates Act, we have finally moved catch and release to catch and convict. I propose that our 2026-2030 roadmap includes a framework for universal jurisdiction cooperation, ensuring that our shared security efforts is the will backed by an unbreakable legal chain. It is my hope that this presentation contributes to the deepening of this vital partnership. And let us move forward with the conviction that when we secure our seas, we actually secure the future for all nations across this vital region. Thank you once again for your time and for this opportunity.
Thank you very much for a very comprehensive and yet very practical presentation. I can picture and imagine the book which will come out of this conference. Your chapter is already ready. This is quite remarkable. And thank you very much for bringing so many concrete points and concrete recommendations. And I was fascinated by what you call Blue Security Academic Exchange. And even more so by what you said, green surveillance deployment to take care of the ships which may be violating climate protocols. So thank you, very useful intervention. And now I have the pleasure to invite Dr. Abhishek Mishra, whom I know very well for many years, a very experienced and promising scholar, to please take the floor and address us.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair. First and foremost, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to express my deep gratitude to Ambassador Sujana Chinoy and Dr. Smruti Patnaik for giving me this opportunity to speak at this timely and important conference. Today, I'm here to essentially talk about Mozambique and how Mozambique fits within India's Mahasagar doctrine or / framework. So Mozambique, it has emerged as a key pillar for India's regional influence in the Western Indian Ocean and for India's energy and maritime security. It provides us a gateway to access landlocked markets in Southern Africa, including Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana. And through my presentation, I want to showcase how India and Mozambique bilateral ties, how it offers a very compelling example of India's own brand of comprehensive strategic partnership, wherein we strive to empower partners from within, respect national sovereignty, and build long-term organic resilience and enhance collective maritime competence. All the same time, while simultaneously achieving our own national interests, which is of energy security and maritime influence. in the region. But before, let's take a dive into what the Mozambique Channel area actually is. Its formation began 180 million years ago, as we know, when the supercontinent Gondwana drifted, and Madagascar, which was previously connected with Australia, India, and Antarctica, it separated from the coast of Africa. The Mozambique Channel, it serves as a critical transit point for trade connecting India, Middle East, and East Asia with Europe. The setting up of the Suez Canal in 1869, the importance of the Mozambique Channel as a trade hub, it declined with the opening up of Suez Canal. But from late 2023 onwards, as we have seen with the resurgence of Houthi attacks on commercial shipping, ships are now having to reroute through the Cape of Good Hope of the South African coast, thereby again increasing the prominence of Mozambique Channel. Uh, the re, so the question now which remains is, with the Suez Canal transits now dropping over 70%, has the Red Sea transformed into a long-term high-risk corridor? And are we witnessing a permanent reordering of global maritime routes? Uh, in 2010, 2011, over 100 trillion cubic feet of proven natural gas was discovered in the Rovuma Basin, Area 1 and Area 4 offshore basin. And throughout the entire Mozambique channel, there are 29 ports and harbors across this entire coastline. And the region is rich with a coral diversity, and it's an important route for migratory route for mammals as well. So some of the main issues which is plaguing the country currently, first and foremost, like the political crisis which the country is facing. In October 2024, the elections happened in which President Felipe Nyusi's successor, current President Daniel Chapo, he won the election. He belongs from the Frelimo party with an overwhelming vote share of 71%. But the elections were marred by accusations of corruption. The opposition leader Venancio Mondlane, he led mass protests. He formerly belonged to Renamo party and right now currently belongs to the Anamola party. However, the protests did not turn out to be peaceful, as there were 400 civilian casualties reported, political assassinations, reports of political assassination strikes, and border closures, which impacted trade as well. On 24th March, finally 2025, both the leaders Daniel Chapo and Venancio Mondlane, they signed an amnesty agreement, which essentially called for release of political prisoners and compensation for the families of deceased. The other most prominent challenge that the country faces is obviously the repeated climate shocks and the humanitarian crisis. The country faces a triple crisis of increasing frequency and intensity of cyclones, severe floods, droughts driven by the El Nino southern oscillation patterns. There is a whole gamut of cyclones and floods which has plagued the country particularly from 2019 onward. Cyclone Idai and Kenneth, in which the Indian Navy also played a very prominent role as the first responder. Cyclone Gombe, Freddy, Tropical Storm Filippo, Cyclone Chido, which was the costliest cyclone on record for the region. Then Cyclone Dikeledi and Jude in 2025, and currently Cyclone Gezani in January 2026. Flooding as well has caused huge displacement. 800,000 people have been affected, and over 5,000 kilometers of roads have also reportedly been damaged. The other aspect of Mozambique is that Mozambique is a long neglected energy and mining player as well, because most of the attention in Africa is given to Angola and Nigeria when it comes to energy resources. Mozambique actually has the third largest natural gas reserves in Africa. It already exports electricity to countries like South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe from the Cahora Bassa hydroelectric dam. It hosts essential materials for global energy transition, particularly graphite used in electric vehicles from the Balama mine, titanium minerals and zircon from the Moma mine, coal through Motsi mine, which is operated by India's Jindal Group, and also gemstones through the Montepuez Ruby mine. And the country also has positively made huge strides in electricity generation. It has a diversified spectrum of 23,026 gigawatts, among which the most abundant source is solar, followed by hydro, wind, biomass, and geothermal. So if we look at the other aspect also in Mozambique is the insurgency, which has been happening from October 2017 onwards. So currently, Mozambique is navigating a security crisis, which is focused on the ongoing Islamist insurgency in the northern Cabo Delgado province. While this is essentially not a conventional civil war, which is fought between two national armies, this conflict actually which is led by ISIS-linked militants, both Al-Shabaab and ASJW, which is Ahlu Sunnah wa Jama. They have caused many casualties, displacement, and hindered development in this gas-rich region. And what essentially began as a local religious sect, it morphed into violent Islamic insurgency led by ASJW group. Some of the reasons for it is years of grinding poverty, inequality, deep sense of marginalization, and inequality between locals, access to resources for locals and elites. 2019, the ASJW outfit pledged alliance to the Islamic State of Mozambique. 2025 to 2026, we have again seen a surge of resurgence of violence after a period of lull till 2024. And this resurgence coincided with again displaced people returning back to their villages, and again the violence has started again in the region. The militants actually they have shifted their modus operandi from holding large scale static territories to more moving towards more small and mobile hit and run units. They have been attacking mining operations, disrupting highways, particularly the N380, holding fishermen for ransom. The South African mission in Mozambique as well, they withdrew in July 2024, leaving all the security burden of security sharing to the FADM forces and the Rwandan defense forces. And currently, most of the insurgents, they are active in the Ketupa forest and Macomia district. Essentially, if you see from 2017 onwards, this insurgency has claimed 6,449 lives. My data is through ACLED data, and it's from the period between 26 January and 8th February 2026. Political violence events, 2,320 events from 2017. The Islamic State of Mozambique, their forces have been clashing with Mozambican forces in the Mocimboa, Praia, and Macomia districts in particular. And essentially, the Islamic State of Mozambique, it has been ensconced in the Katupa forest since 2022, despite repeated efforts by the Mozambican and Rwandan forces to dislodge them. So let's another important aspect is all these militants are also doing what we call island hopping. They are moving from one island to another island within particularly the Curimbus archipelago. Essentially, this island hopping tactic for the militants, it provides them tactical support for long-term group survival, freedom of movement, and also power projection. And another recent development is that they have developed new sources of incomes as well, particularly through kidnapping, ransom, and exerting control over particularly small-scale fisheries and mines in the region. Of course, with the price of gold rising, the Islamic State of Mozambique's activities around gold and gemstone mines from last year onwards, it has again increased. And at the core of the financing issue is the mobile money payment systems, which are available to both the government forces as well as the militants. Now, if we look at where India comes into the picture, where Mozambique falls into India's Mahasagar framework, last year we celebrated 50 years of diplomatic ties from 2003 and 2004 during the World Economic Forum and African Union Summit. On the request of the Mozambican government, the Indian Navy provided patrols during both these summit in 2003 and 4. So even before the resurgence of conventional piracy from 2005-6 onward, the Indian Navy has been active in the Mozambique Channel. We in 2006 we had a MOU on defense, first joint defense working group in July 2006. Then 2 editions we have done on plurilateral cooperation with India, Mozambique, and Tanzania, IMT trial and maritime exercises 2002 and 2024. Cyclone Idai, as I mentioned, the Indian Navy rescued 200 people, treated 2,300 people, and supplied 10 tons of food and water supply. We have gifted 2 fast interceptor crafts in November 2024, and previously there is a resident team of the Indian Coast Guard who is providing crew training. We have also provided 2 large interceptor vessels in 2019 and of the same class in again 2 fast interceptor crafts in 2022 as well. At the zenith of COVID pandemic as well, we provided 1 million doses of Covishield vaccine. Extending lines of credit is a very regular feature of our bilateral ties. We have extended 772 million. Most of it are for development projects, but some of the LOCs are also earmarked for the Mozambican government to procure made in India defense equipments. In terms of we saw that INS Sunaina, in a naval ship Sunaina, they made a port call in the port of Nakala on 17th April 2025. Under I'll come to Mahasagar. So under Mahasagar framework, we have 2 important initiatives. First is the Africa-India key maritime exercises, and the IKIME and the iOS SAGAR exercise, which focuses on training and capacity building. Essentially, our aim is for the Indian Navy to consolidate our stature as a preferred security partner and first responder in the wider Indian Ocean region as well. So we have done a lot of work, but I want to focus on the maritime aspect. So the Mahasagar. So Mahasagar, as has been discussed earlier on in the first panel and by my other panelists, it's a strategic expansion of Sagar vision to incorporate East African littorals, wider Indo-Pacific region, and also the global South. But Mahasagar is a doctrine which is evolving. It advocates economic prosperity for all through cooperative security frameworks. It signifies India's recognition of Africa and the Western Indian Ocean littorals as central to India's maritime strategic calculus. Essentially, from Sagar to Mahasagar, Mahasagar encapsulates a broader agenda where we are incorporating collaboration in economic growth, sustainable development, deeper trade and technology cooperation as well. But as our latest budget also has shown, there always remains constraints on resource allocation and also diversification of responsibilities between various ministries, MEA, MOD, Ministry of Port, Shipping, MPSW, etc. So there is no single nodal agency or ministry which is responsible for the implementation of our Mahasagar doctrine. So essentially, we want to go the whole of government approach to maritime security and cooperation in the Indian Ocean region. As in terms of operational utilization also of Mahasagar, we can see that it Indian Coast Guard ship Varaha made a port call 2024, conducted PASEX and search and rescue training. March 2024, the IMT trilateral exercises with Tanzania and Mozambique we did. That was the second edition. Fast interceptor craft handover we did in November 2025. Then the iOS Sagar initiative, where with crew members from Mozambique and 8 other African nations, total 9 African nations, total 44 crew where visited the INS Sunaina, and they were given the Sea Riders were deployed for joint joint exclusive economic zone surveillance. IKMA exercise, as I mentioned, April 2025, the first training squad port call. They made a first training squadron made a port call in September 2025, and also in the latest Milan exercises, Mozambique was a participant. Um, like I want to focus a little bit on some two important aspects when we come to operationalizing Mahasagar, whether it's with Mozambique or Kenya or Tanzania for that matter. Firstly, is that like India, we although we do have direct shipping lanes to Africa, but they are relatively very limited, and we are very limited, and most of the high volume of trade is rerouted through transshipments hubs. So essentially, we are over reliant. 70% of entire India Africa cargo, it moves via indirect routes, mainly through the Middle Eastern hubs like the Jebel Ali from Dubai, then Doha and Jeddah ports. We do have, that is not to say we don't have direct routes. We have, like there is a Mundra and the Nava Sheva direct route to Mombasa, then the Nava Sheva to Lagos as well as Nava Sheva to Durban. We have launched also a direct service in 2025 by the Inter-Asia Lines, which connects Mundra and Nava Sheva to uh, port of Beira and Maputo in Mozambique, and also to Kenya and Tanzania. Adani Ports and SR Group, they have also invested directly in the African port infrastructure in Tanzania and Mozambique. And the important partnership with in collaboration with DP Worlds is that the government of India we have now launched the Bharat Africa Setu initiative in April 2025 along with DP World. Essentially, through that, we want to create structured, cost-effective trade corridors. And through this initiative, Bharat Africa Setu initiative, India will get access to 10 ports in the region and to over 200 warehouses in various African countries. The other aspect which I want to emphasize is that uh, hosting, as we saw in IKMA exercise, etc., in other exercises, multinational exercises, we do hosting joint exercises or deploying warships. It requires considerable time, funding, and logistical commitments. Now, while there are certainly risks of overstretching capacity due to the Indian Navy's balancing act, which it does in through operations in Bay of Bengal or Arabian Sea and also the wider Indo-Pacific, but there is also a genuine value in deepening India-Africa maritime ties. Now, although burnishing credentials as a regional security provider and cultivating closer defense ties with African nations is welcome, growing activities in the Western Indian Ocean region, it should not be mistaken as greater influence. And India's maritime presence in African waters, whether that is Mozambique Channel or in the overall Western Indian Ocean region, it must always be backed by delivery, consistency, and trust. Uh, uh, in terms of differences between Sagar and Mahasagar doctrine as well, there are certain various key strategic and structural differences. Firstly, in terms of the functional scope as well, Sagar talked about security, whereas Mahasagar is talking about holistic advancement. Sagar was mostly security centric, focusing on maritime domain awareness, HADR, net security provisions for immediate neighbors, whereas Mahasagar is taking a more holistic approach by integrating non-traditional domains like AI, green shipping, climate resilience, renewable energy into the maritime cooperation with India amongst India and African partners. Of course, in terms of diplomatic identity as well, there is a difference. Through Sagar, we were striving to become the net security provider, whereas through Mahasagar, we are striving to become the preferred security partner and first responder to HADR issues in IOR. In terms of operational intensity as well, there is a difference. Whereas Sagar doctrine, it relied much on trust building through regular patrols, trainings, On the other hand, Mahasagar is being operationalized through large-scale multinational exercises like Aikime, etc., Milan exercise, etc., which I have mentioned. And the other difference is in terms of legislative and structural alignment as well. There is a difference. Mahasagar, the Mahasagar doctrine is uniquely tied to recent 2025 overhaul of India's maritime laws, including the Indian Port Bill, Merchant Shipping Bill, which were all designed to cut logistical costs and modernize the domestic maritime sector to support India's global ambitions. Thank you.
Very comprehensive indeed, filled with data and facts and holistic approach. Thank you. Dear friends, we have just about 12, 13 minutes left for a discussion. So without any ado, let me invite questions from the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we'll go on this side. Okay, 5, and then we'll come here. Please start.
So thank you very much. I'm Group Captain Narang from IDSA. Quite insightful deliberations. And since I'm a student of drones, I always come down to drones. Professor, I don't know how to pronounce your name, ma'am.
Just go ahead.
Yeah.
They will pick
So
up.
you suggested green surveillance deployment, and we are looking at emerging drone technologies. A lot of Indian entities are working on it. Looking at ground-based surveillance and the airborne surveillance, some of these can be potential areas of collaboration in future as per you. And same thing to Abhishek. We are looking at Mozambique collaboration, and letter of credit is already there. Can it be such collaboration between India and Mozambique and others can also add?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Parth. I'm the chairperson of the board of directors of the CV Sustainable Youth Foundation. And my question is that although access to sea waters and coastal lines give a great opportunity, they are also susceptible to the risks of climate change. And as we can see in the Lake Chad Basin, it can become a huge humanitarian crisis. And as we can see in the GROLAC, the Latin American and the Caribbean region, it can also induce a huge refugee crisis. So my question is that what steps are being taken for climate change adaptation and catering to these issues for the regional security and the humanitarian aspects?
Okay, I think there was one more there. Yeah, yourself, yeah.
From Center for South Asian Studies, SIS JNU. Both the questions are to Professor Ali Shameem. Sir, I want to ask you that hydrographic security, where you do the hydrographic surveys of your exclusive economic zone, is also part of your internal security ecosystem. And Maldives, as I know, sir, has around 9 lakh square kilometers of exclusive economic zone, and they don't have the potential to do it alone, as far as I understand. So they are getting some surveillance vessels from Australia, and they are trying to rope in domestic firms after they decided to throw away the agreement of 2024 agreement with India. So, sir, I want to know that what is the Maldives plan to do, the hydrographic exercise and hydrographic maritime domain exercise for this entire economic zone. The second question is about economic security to you, sir. Okay, I can only ask one. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello. Jai Hind, sir. I'm Sangeeta Kumari, researcher on Indo-Pacific region. My question to Admiral and Jayarathna, sir. Sir, Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean represent countries like India, US, China, and Russia. When small island countries like Seychelles, Diego Garcia, and others are governed and dominated by dominating countries like US and China. Then how the other countries, progressive countries like India and other partners of this Indo-Pacific region maintain stability and progressive development in this region? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think we'll stop there. This is the first round. Admiral sir, may I request you to take this question and then we go this way. Brief answers so that we can get one more round.
I'll start with the last question on the Indo-Pacific. Indo-Pacific is someone else's strategy. It is not our strategy, and it is not an Indian strategy. And someone else's strategy became an advantage to your strategy. That is how the India came on board. So likewise, countries are free to make that choice. So depending on that. So similarly, when the One Belt, One Road comes, some countries jump into that because it serves their purpose also. So the concepts can come from anyone. Generally, when you float your concepts, you will be financially in a powerful position, and geopolitically you'll be in a powerful position. We don't see countries like lesser players playing these kind of concepts. So Indo-Pacific, let it be Indo-Pacific. But for Indian Ocean, it is the Indian Ocean that matters. So it is the duty of the countries in the Indian Ocean region to work for the Indian Ocean identity. So India has to do much, because India want to go to global market, then it is India's problem. But at the same time, India has to navigate with the region. So when that the India Today magazine gave that analysis of when the neighborhood is burning, so what it says, India has to redraw, go back to his board and think about it and deeply analyze what to be done. So that's the way to go about it. And to touching up on this hydrographic data, I'm sure my Maldivian counterpart will answer that. But being a former chief hydrographer, hydrographic data are your data. And there'll be always, you can go for joint surveys, you collect the data, but the data ownership is with yours, with the coastal state up to EZ. So what happened is there will be generally agreements. Now this is what the Indian agreement came up for hydrographic cooperation with Sri Lanka. Other than the chart producing status, we agreed for everything, but we didn't give the chart producing status because we are producing electronic charts. Electronic charts is the future. That is where the money is, that is where the market is, and that's where the future is. So we are not going to give that right. So that is accepted. So that's the way the countries will work out, and that is within the framework of the IHO also. And coming to the climate refugees, it's going to increase. We are already looking at the changes. When the ocean is warm, naturally it will create unbalanced environmental conditions on land. When where are 70% of water, it will dictate the temperature and the climate over land. That's how it is. So a lot of more study has to be done, and already we are looking at that kind of changes. Days are getting hotter and warmer, and at the same time, I won't say that the ocean warming is not the problem. Sea level rise is not the problem. When the oceans are warm, naturally the evaporation also high. When the evaporation is high, there will be rainfall is high. This is the cycle how it goes around. But what's going to happen is the freak weather patterns, unexpected weather patterns. So this will create havoc in our things, and the national budget will not be forecasting these things, and there will be no much allocation for these things. So when a cyclone struck, the countries will find that there's no money allocated for that. So you are in a fix. This is the cycle that's going to affect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think JNU professor asked a good question, which I don't have much background on this hydrographic security survey. I think India and Maldives Defense Force jointly did some surveys sometimes back, about 5 years back, I think. But it is not very comprehensive. I guess mostly geology and I think seabed structures were identified to some extent, but this is something, an open agenda to be, I think, attended. So I really do not have background on that. So,
I think there was one question to all the panelists about what we are doing to address the issue of rising sea levels and so on. And for the Seychelles, it has been quite short-termist. We have done the timber piling, we've done the seawalls, we've done very short-term approaches to what is a long-term measure, and that is primarily due to not just the human development constraints, but also the lack of money, really, to do much more. And while reclamation is part and parcel of Seychelles development, there's a fair amount of reclamation that happens on the islands as well. There is a wider discussion that has also begun. Where do we go in case we are unable to live in the Seychelles, say 50 years from now? How do we then have, or what are the implications for our sovereignty? And how do we manage that down the line as well? So I'll just leave that there as a final thought.
Thank you. They were talking about that green deployment, surveillance by green deployment ships that you had mentioned, that ships can go and look at other ships which are dark, which are not climate friendly. Or you can say one or two additional points that come to your mind. Yeah.
Yes, I better take your point and do some clarifications, and of course I will have an opportunity to, to include that part in my work. Thank you for your contribution.
Abhishek, briefly.
Captain Narang, I think, sir, like drone technology cooperation is at a very, very nascent stage. According to me, I think if technology cooperation in this sector, if it does happen, it'll only focus on the humanitarian assistance and disaster management sector, and there's a lot of potential in the medical tourism sector as well. Surveillance monitoring for security purposes, I think, I mean, there is potential, but that will come later on. Before that, it's disaster management and medical logistics.
Just to be fair to this part, is there any question? 1, 2, 3. I think we'll go with that. So the lady here, then here, and then at the back, please. Go ahead. Brief questions, please.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear panelists' view on the role of extra-regional power. The panelists from Sri Lanka
Can you speak
spoke
into the
about.
microphone?
Can you speak to the mic, please?
Okay. Yeah, so I was saying that there was a diverse. I'm Deepika Saraswat. I am at West Asia Center of IDSA. My question is that there is a diverse view on the role of extra-regional powers. While one panelist spoke about maintaining the identity of Indian Ocean, and then there is the panelist from Maldives, Professor Shameem, spoke about increasing outreach to middle powers from outside of the region who are not by any means the traditional players in the region, for instance, Turkey. So how do you sort of reconcile this tension between divergent views about the role of extra-regional?
Good. Okay.
Am I audible? Yeah. So thank you for all of the panelists for their remarks, first of all. I'm Akanshi. I work as a Defense Research Officer at the Australian High Commission. And my question is to Mr. Mishra, Mr. Abhishek Mishra. So like you mentioned about the enhancing relationship between India and Mozambique at the government level as well. My question is regarding the recent agreement that they signed just in February itself regarding the criminal matters pertaining to that particularly. Do you think that could further translate into at some point establishing a setup, or if that already is established for that matter, between the two governments where they share information regarding terror financing as well, where India could, pertaining to that matter, help Mozambique identify how that is happening in terms of rubies or through trade, and the counterparts here with the FIU could help Mozambique in that particular scenario and help them exit the list that is the FATF as well, which they've been trying for since last year, especially now. So yeah, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. And first of all, I want to appreciate this panel because I can see Sri Lanka, Maldives, Seychelles, Mozambique and Tanzania in one panel. And this is Amu Esanil. I'm a PhD scholar, senior research fellow from MMAG Academy of International Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia. So my question is to Dr. Malshini Senaratne, and you're from Seychelles, and I know you talked about small states and about the blue economy framework, and I just want to know the Seychelles perspective, like how Seychelles is maintaining its agency in amidst this great power competition. You know that there is US, there is China, and both have stakes in Seychelles, and I want to know how Seychelles navigate among those players. Thank you.
Would you like to take first or the last question or both?
First, sir.
Yeah.
Right. Coming to extra-regional powers play in the Indian Ocean region, it's up to the individual countries, sovereign countries. They are free to make their own decisions. What matters is when the circumstances are not expressed properly, when the strategic intentions are not expressed properly, things going to get hijacked by the media. I will give a good example. The Hambantota Harbour. When Hambantota Harbour, the decision was taken in late 2005, there was a reason for us to go for it, and we were looking to build it. And when the harbour was commissioned in 2010, there was no Belt and Road. There was nothing like that. China never has thought about those things at that time. But we made the harbour because that's a harbour we want. And we were looking to build that deep water harbour based on our experience in Colombo Harbour development in 1977. In my paper, I have, in a chapter, I have explained these things very in detail. And Hambantota Bay was the first attraction for Sri Lankan officials, but constructing a harbour at the Hambantota Bay is a colossal amount. So it was put on abeyance. Everybody was looking what to do about it. Then in 2004, the tsunami created the opportunity. Tsunami breached into the natural sand dunes of the what we call the Karagan Levaya. That is the largest salt pan in Sri Lanka. So if any of you are using Google Earth, you go to the Google Earth and use the slider for historical images. When you slide it down to 1980s, you will see there's no harbour over there. But all of a sudden, the salt pan got contaminated in a level that it cannot be never recovered. And all of a sudden, the harbour, the land space we are looking for was God presented. There was no political will to make a decision till Mahinda Rajapaksa made that decision. Otherwise, all the previous president could have made that decisions. But the Singaporean ensure that we don't go for that decision. So that is up to the countries. That is how the sovereign decisions are made. So when these decisions are made, the construction of harbour was given to India. India declined because the prevailing circumstances were not that conducive enough for him to make that political decision. Then China. So all of a sudden, the 2005 Boothell and Hamilton report came with the word string of pearls. It was not a term that China developed. It is an American term. And when I did my national defense course in China in 2017, when in a forum, I used that word, the Chinese professor politely asked me to withdraw that because it's not China's one. They have no thought about that one. So string of pearls is someone else's coin. So let's not get carried out by this Western media or someone else's concept. And I don't need to carry out with the Indian concepts. But what I need to carry out is, with that concept, it gives me some economical benefit. If it gives me some strategic benefit, let's go for it. So that is how the countries will make decisions, and that is how it will go around. Then on the I have some idea about this financial investigation unit. It's a global arena, and I'm sure there are already mechanisms are in place for that. I think your comprehensive strategic partnership India Australia address this in a paragraph. Right. Thank you.
Want to say something?
Yeah, I think IDSA obviously asked about extra regional power, the shift focus shift of focus from regional powers to extra-regional. What I mentioned in my presentation was middle powers rather than larger powers. So that the idea probably is de-escalation of the tension we have that has developed within Indian Ocean in our region, especially geopolitics. So of government, I'm not a government official. I'm an academician, so I'm just observing and presented my views. So government has shifted to middle powers and approached Turkey and bought 2 drones from Turkey than from larger powers, because then because it might kind of dishearten another power perhaps. So that's why. So later Australia and Japan, which are, of course, Japan sometimes is a global power, they say, but Australia also has offered to give help Maldives with patrol boats. So our government is looking at de-escalate tension and not to invite more suspicion and mistrust from traditional powers, perhaps, or friends, that they are looking at middle powers so that there can be no suspicion, perhaps. I don't know really the what you call origin of this policy, but my understanding is that we are looking at not to play with high politics, or what you call to fuel the tension again, rather de-escalate. They want to look for middle powers and like-minded countries, and to buy military hardware rather. I hope I answered. Thank you.
Yeah, to your question on the with India and Mozambique signing the mutual legal assistance in criminal matters treaties, I believe this month itself, in February. I think yes, it is the first such uh, treaty which we have signed in terms of the criminal justice field. Um, it provides certainly a formal framework to combat crimes or transnational crime networks, including your cybercrime, economic, including cybercrime, terrorism networks, etc. So, in short, to your question whether that will help Mozambique exit the FATF list, yes, in the future. And just, sir, if I can respond, so regarding the presence of foreign navies, I think extra-regional powers, I'm talking about in terms of African countries. Interestingly, in March 2022, Somalia, for the first time, did not renew the United Nations Security Council authorization for presence in its waters. So now the onus lies on foreign countries to justify their presence in these waters. I think Professor Christian Bierger, who has written a paper on militarization dilemma, that provides certain answers to this question, if anyone is interested.
Thank you very much. I think we have really overshot the time, but I hope DG would forgive us because we did have a very interesting conversation today. I'm not intending to summarize it by any stretch because we have all the details here, but I would like to make 2 or 3 points in the end, which seem to be coming from the panel and from the thrust of questions. I think there is no serious difference of view now on the geographical footprint of Mahasagar. Sagar is now history. We are talking of Mahasagar, and very clearly, I think it has been endorsed that the geographical footprint includes Southeast Asia, South Asia, part of Indian Ocean, the larger concept of global South, and we will have to work on that basis. The second, the functional scope is also very clear. I think 2 or 3 of our panelists, when they described the case study of relationship between India, the emerging relationship with Tanzania, with Seychelles, it came out clearly that almost all the facets of cooperation, stretching from trade to development cooperation to maritime security and to strategic convergence, are in a way coming under this this concept. My third point is that we, the think tank community, is doing its best to elaborate it in consultation with the intellectual leaders of the neighborhood. But I think at the government level, at some stage or the other, taking a leaf from some of the other countries, I think it's important for us to expect some kind of an official elaboration as well, because that would help to be taken even more seriously. And I feel that in this context, India's chairship of the Indian Ocean Rim Association presents a terrific opportunity. This is the time, this is the platform where India's message on further elaboration of Mahasagar can be presented. And in that elaboration, I think as it came out today, we very much hope that there will be suitable mention and suitable incorporation of the concepts relating to blue economy, blue finance, blue diplomacy, because this is not just the voice of Indian scholars, this is the voice from the oceanic neighbors. Dear friends, thank you very much. May I invite you to applaud our very distinguished panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and panelists, for a very insightful session. With this, we conclude session 2. We will now break for tea for 10 minutes. Thank you.